This is Yerushalmi Shekalim. We're supposed to be doing the Art School Oswald edition, Oswald edition, top of Mem Gimel Amarav. But let's start from the two dots, the second and the last line, Mem Beis and Mem Beis, which in the Vilna Yerushalmi is on Chav Daled and Mem Beis, and in the Vilna Bavli Yerushalmi is on Tes Zayin Amud Aleph. It is the 14 lines to the top. And our Mishnah we had mentioned yesterday that the Shemen HaMishcha was put into Geniza. And we say, Pitam Shemen HaMishcha. Now we're going to talk about how they made it. But the pasuk is Shmol Salam Lechav Gil Tokach Chab Sami Rosh Shmol Dror Chamesh Meos V'Kidmon Bosem Chamach Tziso Chamishim Mosayim V'Knei Bosem Chamishim Umosayim. Okay, so the more drawer was 500. The Kidmon Besem, half of it was 250. They took it in two scoops, so to speak, and the Knei Bosem was 250. Okay, so we have 500 and 500 and then 250. So that's not what the Gemara says here. The Gemara says Shehein Elv Chamesh Meos Manim, which is 1,500 money, which seems to be off because our Gemara seems to the plus way we just read it is 1,250. But we not read the next pasuk. The next pasuk says V'kidah Chamesh Meos B'Shechar Kodesh Shemen Zayis. But that makes it, seems to make it 1,750, right? So, does it work out the cheshbon here? So the answer is that the Yerushalmi is not agreeing with the Bavli. The Bavli says that Machtzisach HaMishim Masai means it was 500 altogether. They took it in two heaps. But the Yerushalmi obviously holds not that way. The Yerushalmi holds that when Kiram Best and Machtzisach HaMishim Masai means that it was a half of the more drawer. Not like the Bible increases Daf Hey. It says it was taken in two halves, but it was a half. So all going to the Bavli, the 1,750 money. According to Yerushalmi, the only 1,500 money. Okay, so the 1,500 altogether. It's all the Varjim say it, but it's the Reb Chaim who spells it out. I shouldn't say all Varjim say. The Bnei Moshe says that none of them make the comparison to the Bavli that I can see, except the Art School, obviously. But they all hold it here. It was 1,500. So that's what it says. Oh, no, the Shnei is Chos. Oh, no, he brings down the Bavli increases. He doesn't actually. Yeah, it doesn't say the same. It doesn't change gears here. No, it just brings down the gears. Okay. Now, it says in Pasuk that Shemen Zai, at the end of Pasuk, Chavdal, it says, Kido Chamesh Meos B'Shechar Kodesh Shemen Zai's Hin. So, Shemen Zai's Hin, Shem Shnei Masar Lug. That's not much. That's 12 Lug. Shabo Shokin is Aikor and Divrei Meir. They will use it in order to, they cook the herbs in the Shemen Zayis, and the Shemen Zayis then becomes the Shemen HaMishcha, obviously. Right? No, there was not enough oil, so therefore first they would cook the herbs in water, so they wouldn't absorb any oil. But as the Shemen got bam, and they put the oil on top of him. Once the oil absorbed the fragrance, you would remove it. And this is the way the people makers of spiced oils do it. Though Stephen says that which it says Shemen Mishchas Kodesh. This is the oil of the anointing of holiness. The point is the end of the pasuk. The end of the pasuk says, this is the Zeh, is 12. In other words, there was 12 lug, and none of it got absorbed. How can none of it get absorbed if they cook the ikorin in the oil itself, so it get absorbed in the wood. So that's what he's saying, that they made sure to cook it in water and then to put on the oil, and the oil would absorb the fragrance, and they removed the oil. Well, that doesn't necessarily defeat Rabbi Meir, because Tani, we learned, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eloi said, Shemin, Mamishcha Shasa Moshe Rabbi Bar Meisim, Nisim Naswa Mitzvah, so it was miraculous from beginning to end. Shemitchila Lo Haya Bo El Shtei Masar Lug, and it started with 12 lug, Shneimar, Shemin Zayis Hin, right? Hin is 12 lug. If you just 12 lug is not even enough to bathe all the roots, the herbs. Certainly, this is the case if the fire consumes some of the oil, by timbolim, and the wood boils consumes some of the oil. Fire bolas, and the pot itself absorbs some of the oil. We met in the Mishkan Makokei with this oil. The Mishkan was anointed in all of its kalim. Ashur Mechol Kalim, the shulchan of the lechem apanim and all its kalim. Have menorah v'chol kelei, the menorah and all of its kalim. Many Aaron of Kohen Gadol, Von of Kol Shiva, and from from this oil, the Aaron and his children were nimshach all 7 days. I guess every day they were nimshach of the miluim, and yet there was the assumption is that there were 12 lug left after all this. Now, as long as I did Shem Mishcha after the Dor Midbar, it says from the Shem Mishcha were anointed the Kohanim Gedolim, as long as they had it, first base Mikdash, and kings. Melch b'tchilato Mashiach, the first king in a lineage requires Mashiach. Melch ben Melch, a king, son of a king, enoto Mashiach. The son of the heir who inherits his father's throne does not require Mashiach. My time pasuk teaches this. Kumashcheu kihu zeh. Go rise up, anoint him. This is the one. This is talking about when they Shlomo anointed David HaMelech. It says, "Vayishtach v'yevu admonim yefei naim." They sent for David, as he wasn't present when the other brothers were tried out, and David came, and he was red-haired with beautiful eyes, v'tov ro'i, and very handsome. Vayom Hashem kumashcheu ki zehu. He's the one. Of a Kohen Gadol ben Kohen Gadol, but a Kohen Gadol and the son of Kohen Gadol, since it doesn't necessarily, it's not like kingship, which goes naturally from father to son. But the Kohen Gadol ben Kohen Gadol, I feel like outside the Sunni Mashiach, they even for 10 generations. In other words, forever it requires Mashiach. They would never consider to be a chazaka that you don't have to be Moshe, the child of the Kohen Gadol. The pasuk here, which we take from I think sounds like it's used later on in the Masechta. Hasan Freish Yasiv mean talking Chali. Kuntu Hasan Freish Yasiv Vakoin Tachto Mashiach Tachto Mibanov. It actually says that the Kohen who comes from his children, even he is also considered to be needs a Mashiach. So it's not like I said that because there's no intrinsic Yerusha for Kohuna Gdola. No, even there is. It says Mashiach Tachto Banav. Name a crow. Vakoin Tachto Mibanov. My Mashiach. Hakmash Afi Banav. Even if there is a inheritance by Kohuna Gdola. Who the Mashiach they have in Gadol? If you don't anoint him, that does it's he's not about Kohen Gadol. Of course, yes, we know that once it's Shemish was nicknamed, it's still Kohen Gedolim, but it's still a mitzvah to be Moshech, the Kohen Gedolim, even the Kohen Gadol, son of Kohen Gadol, and the. And continue on, like we said before, all of it is all of it is required. It's X in Losi Lavo. In other words, the Yud Beis Lug remains Yud Beis Lug forever. According to Gron talking Chadatin, based like later on Daf Mem Gimel, they take out the my time of Kumashchei Ki who's that. They say that's not the case, but rather that is going later on. Mal teach us that Malchi Yisrael don't require Mashiach, only Malchi Yehuda, not Malchi Yisrael. and so it's, the fact that we don't Moshech Melech Ben Melech is learned out because by Kohen Gadol it says you are Moshech, the Kohen Gadol, son Kohen Gadol. Maybe we know that Melech Ben Melech not, but not because of this pasuk, which is used later on, definitely a base, I should say, for a different purpose. Okay, so because we're at different Gil base. You only anoint kings by a spring. That's what it says. We learn from that which it says. Read a full pasuk from Torah Yerushalmi. If you don't remember Aleph Lam Gimel Dal, full two psukim. The king said to him, take your servants of your master, your captain, put Shlomo on the mule which belongs to me, and take him down to Gichon, so Sham Tzadok HaKohen. But Nasa Navi the Melech Yisrael, he should be anointed there by Tzadok HaKohen and Nasa Navi to be the king on his oath. Captain Shofar, he should blow a shofar, but when you say Chia Melech Shlomo. So we see that this is when Adonio tried to usurp the Melucha, David HaMelech stymied him by having Shlomo appointed in his lifetime. So this is what was done by a Mayan. Basically, the Gemara brings down the pasuk. Moshchim Melech Ben Melech. We don't do a king, son of a king. We don't anoint him, as we said before, either we learn from a pasuk or or because the Kohen Gadol, it says you do Kohen Gadol, son Kohen Gadol, and therefore we infer not a Melech. The only time is that there is a we do our Moshe Melech is Ivnei HaMachlekes. Okay, and the here the Gra takes out Ivnei HaMachlekes. Just has we've named Manim Shach Shlomo. While Shlomo anointed, he was Melech Ben Melech. So name Machlokto Shel Adonio. So whether you take it out or not, obviously there's it's true that if there's a machlokes, then you would be anointing the Melech Ben Melech to I guess to fortify his claim to the throne. That's a Shlomo was Nimshav, named Machlokes Shel Yoash, Bnei Atalia, because of his I think it was his stepmother. Not his actual mother. No, I am wrong. Atalia was his grandmother. Her son Achazio was killed, assassinated by Yehu, and then Atalia seized the kingship, and she killed all the progeny of the house of David, Malchus based David, except for Yoash, who was the son of Achazio, and his wife Tzivia. He was one who was saved. Yoachaz got anointed, because of Yoakim, his brother, who was 2 years older than him, and yet Yoachaz became king first. So he was anointed. Yehu, who was a king of Yisrael, was anointed because of Yoram. So Yehu evidently staged a coup against Yoram, and it's true, it's the first king now in the dynasty, but he should not have been anointed because he was a Melech Yisrael, and Melech Yisrael don't require Mashiach. It's interesting in halacha, even though the Melech Yisrael, you'd seem the northern kingdom was not legitimate. It's not true. We apply halacha to their kings, and from here we have precedent that kings, even if not from Malchus based David, have stature of kings in halacha. Okay, they might be rogue kings, but they are kings nonetheless. Okay, so the Gemara asks, Lo king Ksiv, so does not say Kumashcheu ki hu zeh, zeto Mashiach ein Malchei Yisrael tuni Mashiach, right? So Yoram shouldn't have gotten Mashiach after all, because he was from Malchei Yisrael. It's the Takan Chadatin we said a few minutes ago says that, okay, here we see that this pasuk used specifically for this drasha, ein Machis Zetam Shilei Machis Sotim Mashiach, and that's why he took it away from Amar Aleph, from the previous case, and said it's not the reason why you're not Moshe Melch ben Melch. The Pnei Moshe says it serves both purposes. If you're Melch Yisrael, ואף גב לאל דורש ממני שם משה מלך במלך, תרתי שמונה, שזהו דווקא אותו משיחה. So, so the Gemara assumes that we take out Yoram here. Okay, and I guess even though we just said, well, the reason was because he was, even though he's Malchi Yisrael, we wanted to make the point because of this. We wanted to make a point that even though he's Malchi Chila, we wanted to make a point because he was Moshe him in order. No, we say even though it's Malchi Chila, it's not the reason, but rather because of because of Yoram. Mara doesn't accept that. Mara says, no, he wasn't Nimshach at all. You make a mistake. There was no Mashiach in that case. Now, that's going to be problematic, of course, because in Melachim Bey's Tes Vav, Bey's Perek Tes, it says, actually, I read from the beginning of the Perek, it says, V'lisha Navi Kol Echad Minei Avim, V'yom L'chagor Maslecha, V'kach Pach Hashem, and Azeb Yadecha, V'lecha Mos Kilot. V'asa Sham Rei Sham, Yehu Ben Yoshafa Ben Nimshi. V'asa Vakimos Yidok Echad V'ybeso Cheder B'Cheder. This is before he staged the coup. Kach L'Pach Shemen, Tzach L'Roshov, Marta Kol Mar Hashem, Pach Hashemen, Tzach L'Roshov, Marta Kol Mar Hashem, Shachtich L'Melech Yisrael. But after you anoint and flee, get away, get out of there. Chanar v'hanavi neros gilad v'avovine says say Yoshe remember Davli Elecha Sar v'emri mi kulona v'emri Elecha Sar. He went to said I'm going to come to you, the general Sartzova, I guess he was, and welcome by Yoval by say Tzok Hashem Arisho. So and then he told him, go and stage the coup. Okay, so he was Nimshach. Okay, so we have to figure out what to do with that. But in the meantime, where it says, so rather, he was not. He was. He must be a different case. Okay, so So at this point, they want to say it must just be a yochas, right? We have to take Yoram out of that. It says, well, no. Wait a minute. Anyway, even yochas is difficult. There was no Shemin HaMishkamar. Didn't Yoshua opening Nisa, and he was before. He put before Yochas and Yoakim. So they were both sons of Yoshio. After Yoshio dies. So how is there Shemin HaMishkamar? So it must be that he was Nimshach with Shem and Afar, which I think is actually extinct today as well. I think they found recently a sample of it intact. But the Afar Simon which they had is not the persimmon we have today. Some other fruit. And so that oil is extinct except for some sample they found in, I think, one of the caves in Midbar Yehuda. But in any event, so this is a precious oil which they used for the, but it wasn't the Shem and Mishcha. Now, the Farshim say, and now we can go back and say, well, just like Yochas, it wasn't really Sharon and Mishka. The same thing, the oil which is used by Elisha, which he sent to be Moshe Yehu, was also the not the true Shemin HaMishcha, it was Shemin HaParsimon. And that makes sense because it doesn't say Elisha said to Nar, go to Yerushalayim and get the Shemin HaMishcha from the Beis HaMikdash and bring it to Ramos Gilad to the Golan and go meet Moshe. Well, it seems cautious that he was just taking some oil which is available, not the Shemin HaMishcha from the Beis HaMikdash. So it's a bit choppy here, the Gemara, but that seems to be the Shakla V'Tarya, and this is also who's the article brings down this shot from. Somebody, I saw it brings up somebody. The Vishnu Schos. No, he's from the Talmud Rashbash in Rasaville. Yeah. Okay. Ein Moshe Melachim Elamina Karen. You're supposed to use anoint kings from a horn. Shol and Yehu were anointed from a container, a tin. Because their kingship was a temporary kingship. Davisham Nishkum Karen, Davisham were anointed from a horn. Malchus and Malchus Kayemis. Their Malchus was going to be a permanent Melucha. The Pach that he says here in the article is not a tin, but rather a Pach of Cheres. I don't know how we know that, but maybe that's. I guess the symbolism is because Cheres is a break, so therefore their Malchus was broken. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any other source for saying it was specifically of Cheres. Says more further, you don't anoint the Kohanim to be kings. Yudon said, "Al Shem Shem Yehuda," because it says the staff should not deviate from Yehuda, and therefore it does not go to Kohanim. Of course, the famous Ramban and Chumash that says that was the chait of the Chashmonaim, that they took the kingship over from the Yehuda and Ein Moshim Kohanim Melachim. Amar Bechia Barada, different Lumud. It says, in order that he should reign long, he and his children amongst the Jewish people. And immediately afterwards it says, Lo yeh kohanim ha'avalim chelek. The kohanim of the Levim should have a chelek v'nachloim Yisrael. So the juxtaposition of the Psukim comes to tell us that the kohanim should not be Melachim. My cousin on the offer Yerushalmi brings down from the Mnesha Chachma. They should not make Kohanim Melachim. Being a king will remove him from connecting properly to Kodesh Baruch Hu. The loftiness of his heart. We know a king has to write an extra special Sefer Torah, and the king, once he bows down by B'Shemasi, is supposed to remain bowed because we're particularly afraid of his room levavo. So therefore, that's particularly unsuited to be a Kohen Gadol. If he makes a mistake, the kings make mistakes, and people will think that, well, since Kohen Gadol, it's not a mistake. They're going to call him holy. So they're not going to realize the mistake he makes. That's from the Meshech Chachma. Okay, now we're going to get into a whole name game here. Some confusing. There's confusing psukim. Okay, it says in the Divrei Yom Aleph Gimel Tesvav. Ubnei Yoshua HaBechor, the children of Yoshua, the eldest was Yochanan. Sheni Yoakim. The second was Yoakim. Hashlishi Tzidkio, the third was Tzidkio. Varavi Shilum, and the fourth one was Shilum. Okay, so Amar Yochanan, who Yochanan, who Yochaz? The name Yochaz is not mentioned here, right? Yochaz is mentioned in Melachim Beis Chav Gimel. It says V'ku Avadav Meis Mim Gido. The slaves took Yoshua dead from Megiddo. But Yerushalmi, they buried him in his burial place. But Kacham Ba'oretz, and the people of the land took us Yochaz. Ben Yoshua took Yochaz and Shchu Oso, and they gave Moshe Chem by Mlichu Oso Tachas Aviv, and they made him a king instead of his father. Okay, so there it says Yochaz, but in Doviyom it says there's Yochanan, Yoakim, Tzidkio, and Shalom. No Yochaz mentioned. So Yochanan says Yochanan is Yochaz. So wait a minute, but then he was the Bechor, he was the oldest. What did you say before that Yoakim was old? It says Yochanan was the oldest. Bechor Yochanan, Sheni Yoakim. So it says Bechor Lamachus. He was the first to be king. Now, of course, he was not chronologically, he was not the oldest, but he was first to be king. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Who Sholem, who Tzidkio?" So it says that the Shlishi Tzidkiyahu Ravi Shalom. So but he's saying the same person. So the Gemara asks, Shlishi Tzidkiyahu Ravi Shalom. So Shlishi L'Tolados, he was the third born. He is Revi L'Malchus. But he was the fourth in order of kings. How so? So Kormei says Shemach Yoyachaz v'acharav Yoyachim Charachav Yechania Beno. After Yoyachim, his son Yechania v'acharav Tzidkiyahu, and then afterwards Tzidkiyahu. So he was the fourth in order of kings, even though only 3 sons, because his nephew was king before him. Tzidkiyahu, why is it called Tzidkiyahu? His name is Shalom. Tzidkiyahu Midas Adin. He just made Midas Adin. He was the one who, not that he was Matzik Adin, that he was, either he was appointed king last, or that he was the one which the king which basically was destroyed. No, says Kormei Shekalav at Nebuchadnezzar said. Nebuchadnezzar said to him, "Listen, you should know I'm going to judge you justly on this, so to speak." But Shekalav says Kormei Nebuchadnezzar, "Remember, Kol Yatztikol Echas Adinim Timra B." God will deal with you justly if you rebel against me. Kak Rosh Tzidkiyahu. So basically, Nebuchadnezzar called him Tzidkiyahu. Shalom. So why is it called Shalom? His name is Tzidkiyahu. Also, we dashed in Shemav Shama Malchus Beis David. In his day, the Malchus Beis David came to its completion. So the truth is, neither were his names. Lo Shalom Havashmei v'lo Tzidkiyahu Havashmei. And Matanya Havashmei. His name was Matanya. Matanya. Tado Dichsiv, as it says, Vayamlech Melech Bavel es Matanya Dodo Tachtov. After the nephew was king, Yechania, and he was removed. The king of Babel took Matanya, his uncle, by a safe Shmo Tzidkiyahu, and he switched his name to Tzidkiyahu, but his original name was Matanya. Okay, we will stop here for today because I'm going to base and 2 dots.